Go on.
So in the end, Deborah and Elaine both went to that ceremony. And the only reason I didn't for two reasons. Number one, we were all going to Paris that November with the bar. And this was the preceding July, or it was the following July or something like that. And number two, I mean, I understood that Jack was related to me, but I never knew him. He died before I was born, or right around the same time I was born. So my connection wasn't as strong as Deborah's and Elaine's. And Deborah reported later that it was very, very, she was very glad she had gone. It was very heartwarming.
Did Marshall ever have kids?
Deborah is his daughter.
Oh.
Marshall married Joyce, and he had Deborah, and he had Lloyd. Lloyd suffered from mental illness.
What kind of mental illness?
It's unclear, but he died a year ago. Deborah really was like his guardian, his younger sister.
Deborah Haluska?
Yeah.
That's her married name?
Yeah, she's divorced now too, but Haluska is her married name. Her name was Deborah Marcus. And Lloyd was her older brother. And Lloyd was being groomed to like go to medical school and be a shining star. And instead, when Lloyd was maybe 17 or 18, he impregnated some young woman, never went to college, never held a job, basically his parents took care of him his whole life. And Deborah could never tell, I'm not sure she knew exactly what was wrong with him. Something was wrong with him. I think he was on Social Security disability, actually, for mental illness.
But it wasn't something like schizophrenic?
No.
Or that intense?
No, it wasn't that intense.
He was just a little off?
Yeah. And then what happened was, Deborah was furious about this, and I don't blame her. Lloyd had this son when he was like 17 or 18 years old, with whom he had nothing to do. He never married the mother, who was herself a teenager. And when Lloyd got sick, and I'm trying to remember if it was a heart condition or what it was, but he was very sick in the last few years. Suddenly the son surfaced, I think living in California, wanting to establish a relationship with Lloyd, which Lloyd fell for. And Deborah felt that the entire reason that this man, was a man, surfaced was to try to get a hold of Lloyd's estate.
You don't know his name, do you?
I did know his name, but I don't remember any longer. Anyhow, she tried to be accommodating. And then she discovered that he got Lloyd to sign over power of attorney from her to him, and he was trying to get stuff. It was clearly a money grab. And then the worst was when she went to visit her brother in the hospital, and this son of Lloyd's said he had power of attorney and she couldn't go see him. It was upsetting to his father. It was terrible. And she finessed a way that she is actually a Deborah is a chaplain, a Jewish chaplain. And she finessed a way with the hospital staff to let her go see Lloyd when...
And where does Deborah live?
She lives in Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Does she have kids?
She has two sons, Daniel, I'm his godmother, and Frankie, who just got married. No, Frankie's the one that got married when we were in Orlando a couple of years ago.
So I don't know them.
No, you don't know them at all.
And when you were a kid, I have a vague memory. I don't know if you told me this or Jeff did. Did Rini go to California for a few months and leave you guys because she needed a...
She took me. She needed a break from Jeff. Jeff was an extremely difficult kid. Very, very difficult. We now would say that he had severe ADHD. He needed to be on Ritalin. My father would not consider getting any counseling about what might be wrong with Jeff. Just he had ants in his pants. He couldn't follow any rules
Why was Nate so against counseling?
because he came from a time and place where people were against it. Like, you handled your own problems, you didn't go seek any help. So, ironically, Nate ended up with a bipolar wife who needed to be on meds, and Jeff, who's
Was Renee on meds her whole life for bipolar?
no, she was on meds from the time she was in her late 50s. She was on
Lithium.
lithium.
Any other mental illness in the family that you know of?
Yes. Well, a lot on Daddy's side. You know about that.
Well, I know of one case on Daddy's side.
Well, the maternal grandmother was institutionalized. Yeah. And I would say that his father was depressed because he used to take tranquilizers all the time, which I think was a way to self-medicate for depression. But my mother used to say that there was a relative in Russia who she didn't know, but they told the story that this relative was mentally ill. It was a woman, and that she used to sit in a room all day and tie ribbons on her leg. And my mother used to tell that because she was obviously, I realized later, she was afraid that she too could end up in a room tying ribbons on her leg.
And anything else come to mind, or just that?
Just that.
When
But
you were-
that certainly suggests somebody that was pretty sick.
Yeah. When you were growing up, was Renee showing signs of extreme behavior?
She was showing obsessive compulsive disorder, which I didn't know the name for at the time.
With the plastic covered furniture?
Well, that was the least of it.
Like what else?
Like that she would spend hours literally trying on outfits. She's a very vain woman. She would spend hours trying on outfits with different shoes and jewelry combinations, and she'd drive my poor father crazy. He was very, very patient, and she would say, Nate, does it look better with the white earrings or the gold earrings with the green, and then she would write on little slips of paper what the best combination was. And she would never use like a real slip of paper. She'd use ripped pieces of envelope and stuff like that with her handwriting and pencil, and she would stick it on the outfit with like a common pin or a safety pin. So she had a closet full of that, which at the time I didn't realize it was nutty behavior. I just thought it was my mother, I mean, I didn't see anyone else doing that. I wasn't doing that, but I didn't realize that what it was obsessive compulsive behavior.
And then Jeff had ADD undiagnosed. So
ADHD, I would say.
So Renee went to live with Billy for a few months with you?
She took me, and she just had to get away. So she went to California to visit Billy and left.
How old were you then?
Once when I was 2 and once when I was 7. We went for a month on a train. Took trains.
Like during the summer? I mean...
It must have been when I was 7, it wasn't the summer because I had schoolwork I had to do, because I remember I brought schoolwork with me because I was gone for a month or 2. And I remember that Lois was a teacher. She ultimately became like a principal or something. And she would come and check, was I doing my homework?
Lois was a teacher out in California.
Yeah.
So for Renee to take you away during the school year suggests to me that it got kind of critical that she get out fairly quickly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure she was probably on the verge of some kind of breakdown. I would think in retrospect. That's my guess.
And you had trouble with Jeff growing up?
Jeff was very difficult.
Far beyond the normal big sister, younger brother?
Oh yeah. The difficulty with Jeff wasn't in my relationship with him. It was with him acting out and never being able to follow any rule, and that there was constant screaming going on in the house between my mother trying to control him. Then my father would come home and my mother would hand Jeff over to him and say that he had to beat him with a strap, which my father did. and it never made any difference. Jeff couldn't control the behaviors.
Did you ever get beaten?
Oh, never. I was never touched. I was always goody two-shoes. I never did anything wrong.
Did that come naturally to you?
I don't know. But what I would do when there was all this fighting is I would go in the room and close my door and read. I would just retreat.
What were you reading?
Everything. I was a voracious reader. The Bobbsey twins, Little Women, not Nancy Drew. I would go to the library and take out books. That was my favorite thing to do, to go to the library and take out books, and then go in my room and close the door and let them yell at each other. And then Jeff he had a little tiny room. In the upstairs, it was a classic Cape Cod house. He'd go up the stairs, and to the right was my room, and across the hall was his little room. And then there was the one bathroom that we all used, and then my parents' room to the left. And they'd lock him in the room as a punishment, and he would open the window and climb out on the ledge and come in through the bathroom window. They couldn't